No, no, but then it doesn't feel like I've, been friends with my college roommates for 55 years. Every time I have to put something in a time period, it's always astonishing to me that it could be that long. And when I think about 34 years here, I say, why didn't I leave, you know, before this? But then I realized I never had time to think of myself and to do what I would have to do to leave, to get a different job. I just never had the kind of time to even contemplate that.
How long were you an attorney before you became a judge? And what did you do?
15 years, admitted to practice, 15 years, and I began my career as a law clerk to Federal District Court Judge Robert Krupansky. And from there, I was hired by John T. Corrigan to do the federal litigation that was beginning to erupt. It was like 1978, and I believe it was near the beginning of the enforcement of many of the civil rights laws and employment discrimination laws. And all of those were, if they weren't with the agency, they were then in federal court. And that was my job with Mr. Corrigan, civil division, of course, federal court. And then from there, I went to my dream job, which was to be an assistant United States attorney under the U.S. Attorney Jim Williams. And that's where I stayed until I became a judge. And I used to tell my colleagues I would never leave that job unless someone made me a judge. Never really thinking that anyone would. But it did come, and it came at a time when I was concerned about, being a good mother to my children and having a little bit more control over my docket, over my time that I could spend with them versus a job.
What has it meant to you to hold this position in Cuyahoga County?
I've been very proud to have the public trust of this community, and I feel indebted to this community. And by that I mean I feel indebted to make sure I do things fairly, impartially, and with a keen eye towards justice, whether it be a criminal case or a civil case. My fondest memories, I think it's getting together with my colleagues. Prior to COVID, I spearheaded a Ladies of Justice dinner night where the female judges on the bench, we would pick a restaurant and we'd all go there and have dinner together, and we would try to do it once a quarter because we all felt that the men get to socialize over golfing and stopping for a drink or something, but most of the women at the time, we were running home to husbands and children, and we didn't feel we had a lot of extra time to engage with our coworkers, our female coworkers. So that was always a highlight for me, to be able to have that time, and as well as to be able to have time to socialize with judges from all over the state of Ohio when we go to our judicial conferences and retreats. Those are the highlights. Well, the most, of course, would be technology, but that's the world has changed most because of technology. But I would also say that when I came here, I didn't know the culture of the Justice Center. And like when I was first a new judge, no one came on time, no one was prepared, and I would wait 2, 3, maybe hours for attorneys to show up on a case that was scheduled. So frankly, I thought it was against me as a person that they weren't showing up as this. Then I found out over time that it was just like the culture of the courthouse. And over time, the attorneys found out that I was a federal courthouse person, and that wouldn't fly in federal court or in my courtroom. And lawyers, in fact, lawyers today, they'll express to me that they believe I changed the culture of the courthouse, that attorneys are more on time, they're prepared more, and I think a lot of that has to do with technology as well. Well, it's a big change when you go out in public, but day to day you don't see your colleagues. So I don't know that I feel the change when I'm doing my job, but when I'm doing continuing education or when we're campaigning or just speaking to the high schools or the PTA groups, that's when I can really see the change. But it's it's nice to have people of your same gender for obvious reasons, you know. There are things that my male counterparts would not be interested in discussing, and same is true for them. You know, they have each other to discuss things with that they wouldn't want to discuss with women, and I think that's a big part of it.
What are you going to miss the most?
The people, the attorneys, the people. I am applying for a job at the Crazy Horse Monument in South Dakota. I love the story of the monument. They have built what's going to be the largest monument in the world. Travel editors are calling it the eighth wonder of the world. And they have not spent a single penny from the government. They have done this on private donations and the intelligence of the sculptor. When he homesteaded the mountain for his monument, he also homesteaded some flat land in close proximity, and he built a dairy farm on that land. And that dairy farm produced the money to buy the equipment and pay for the workers on the monument. I think a well-rounded background. Um, I think a good moral compass is very important. I think empathy is also important. And I think all of those traits become, I think, the center of your being when you become a parent. You know, you can't have the same bright line ideals that you may have had prior to that, but now you have to look at it from, what if this was my child? You know, what if my child got in this? What if this happened to them? And you could see through your children some of the, what's the word, some of the forces of society and how they impact one way or another. And while it doesn't answer all the questions, but it opens up another way of thinking than you might have had as a single non-parent type of person. Because I know it did me. You know, my family sometimes is amused or confounded when I tell them that I put someone in prison for murder, and I really felt bad doing that. And they'll say, well, Kathy, how can you feel bad putting a murderer in prison? And I said, well, there are times that you look at someone and you say, oh, if things had only been a little bit different in this way, they wouldn't be here. You have different emotions for every case. Some you have no problems doing because you view that person as a real threat, and other times you don't view them as a threat, but there still has to be consequences to especially taking another life. Be prepared. Always be prepared. And if you don't know something, admit it. Judge, I'm sorry, Rule 26 escapes me at this time. May I look at the book, or may I look at my tablet? whatever device you might have. I think it's be prepared and be honest and be yourself. I think we have the best court staff throughout all of Ohio. They care sincerely about doing the right thing, whichever role they have to play in the system. And I'm going to miss quite a few of them because they really are wonderful to work with and work for. I've always been a person that is related, if you will, to the staff. You know, I do a lot of things outside of the courthouse with many of our staff members throughout the building, and they're very good. And I'm going to miss them. I would just tell everybody, be themselves, be honest, and be prepared. That's it.